So if you see your kids kind of sitting around, kind of nodding or whatever, then you just may want to check into that a little bit further. But those get them at the dentist.
Right.
You know, they have. It's these substances that have really changed the face of addiction around the country. You know, the face of addiction is no longer that of the man under the L tracks with the needle hanging out of his arm. You know, today the face of addiction is grandma. You know, who has suffered from maybe chronic hip pain or knee pain, you know, for years and years, and the doctors have just felt like, hey, we'll just give her, you know, the pills and leave it at that. And, you know, grandma gets addicted. When she runs out, you know, the now grandson got to go to the neighborhood. And I'm not talking about, you know, in the African American community exclusively. This is what, as a matter of fact, this is what has brought this crisis to the forefront. This is what has gotten this crisis labeled as a crisis today.
So, we've heard natural, and natural, as we heard earlier, is more from the poppy seed. And so you all know certain examples of it is like morphine. Anybody heard morphine?
Yes.
That's natural. That's a natural opiate. Okay, that's a natural piece. The semi, as he said, you see the dentist. You get it at your doctor. Hydrocodone, codeine. That's semi-synthetic because it's man-made. And the last one is fully synthetic. And Bill, you want to just touch base on that?
I guess I'm stuck with that one, huh? So I'm Bill Genges. I run numerous coalitions in Lake County and through the state. I run the Lake County Drug Prevention Task Force, the Lake County Opioid Initiative, and the statewide Drug-Free Communities Coalition as well. I'm also an employee of the Lake County Health Department. I run a variety of programs. But more to your question, I think the one drug that strikes me as the synthetic that's actually causing the most damage in the country, the state, and in this region is fentanyl.
Yes.
Which is essentially souped up heroin, but it's it's not naturally made.
Right.
It's manufactured.
Right.
Most of it for the last 5 or 6 years has been manufactured in China, and like 15 to 20 grains of fentanyl is the equivalent of a normal dose of heroin. And what's been happening is fentanyl gets mixed in with heroin, and that's actually. I know in the suburbs, and I'm assuming here in Chicago it's the exact same thing, that's where a lot of the deaths are coming from. And so that's the one that I would highlight the most. And we're seeing in Lake County, as an example, we had 8 deaths in 2016 from that were fentanyl caused, at 24 last year. So it's triple. And before that, we only had 3 in 2015. So it's startling.
So when you think about, as an audience and as in your communities, think about those 3 types, okay? And you need to go back to your grandma's or your uncle's medicine cabinet and see what's in there.
Yes.
You know, because this is what you're using, you know, because these are things that are affecting our communities. It's the fully natural, it's the semi-synthetic, and it's the full synthetic. And that fentanyl really is and that carfentanil is the next level. That is more even dangerous because if it's even touched, it can kill you. It's carfentanil, which is an additive of fentanyl. So keep those in mind when we're talking about opioids, okay, and opioid issues. Heroin is engaged in that process. Yes, ma'am.
On the street, what do they call fentanyl? And does it have a nickname? Or
I haven't heard it.
No, there is no nickname for it. These are the drugs that are exclusively for the rich and famous. This is something that Michael Jackson died from. Prince. Yeah, these are the prescription hardcore drugs that they're able to get. Most of us are not able to get. We get the morphine you know, we can get a doctor or whatever, get a prescription for morphine or get it from our grandparents.
Right.
But that fentanyl, you have to have a doctor is afraid to give fentanyl to a person like you and I.
It's generally cut into the heroin to boost the potency, because heroin gets cut so many times between the distributor to the street level. And what, you know, you're not mixing it in a controlled laboratory environment, you're mixing it in a bathtub. And so, and that's why the doses are different.
Wow.
So yeah, nobody knows. Nobody is supposed to know that it's actually in the heroin.
Correct.
Okay, but you also have in the drug using culture, you also have kind of a mentality that, you know, if I'm a user and I hear that, you know, that stuff they selling over on the west side is like killed like 5 people. You know, now the natural reaction would be, man, you know, don't go nowhere near there, okay? But in the drug culture, it's like, man, let me hurry up and get over there before they run out.
So what we want to do is, because I just wanted you all to get that part first. That #1 question was key for you to take for the next 9 other questions. We're going to rapidly go through those. But I needed you all to get a sense of what the types of opioids were. So you can know that when we talk about the other opiates. Is that okay?
Yes.
Because I want to let you all have a very important part to play later on. I don't want to hold you up on that. Let's look at question 2. What we have here. Question 2 says, true or false? The effects of hydrocodone and oxycodone on the brain are indistinguishable from the effects produced by heroin. And it looks like a majority of you all said true, and that is correct.
Yes.
So it is indistinguishable because they are both semi-synthetics. Okay? Semi-synthetic means half man-made, half natural. Okay? So understand that. Next question, please. The next question was, opioid-related overdoses killed more people in 2016 than probably car crashes and other stuff, right?
Yes.
What do you think? Then what? Car crashes? And the answer is for that one is A and B. That's how powerful it was. And it's true, 32,000 people, over 32,000 people died in car accidents in America in 2016. The annual average for gun-related deaths was 33,000, and opioid-related deaths was 49,000. So we're seeing that. Next question. Keep those in mind when we talk and listen to our speakers later, because they're going to have a lot to tell you as well. Question 4. Between 1999 and 2014, overdose rates were highest among which ethnic group? And you all said Caucasians, and the majority of you all said Caucasians, and a few of you had also said that color looks like F, A, B, and D, 27%. Well, the answer to that one is both A and C. C being Native Americans, A being Caucasian. Okay?
Yeah.
4.4% per 100,000 folks of heroin overdoses were Caucasian, and 3.7% of every 100,000 was Native Americans. For opioid overdoses, the rate nearly doubled. Caucasians went to 7.9% opioid, the stuff we just defined, remember that, per 100,000, and Native Americans went to 8.4. Okay? So you see, just for the opioid stuff we just talked about, that's the level per 100,000. Next question, please. The opioid crisis is killing people at an equivalent rate of the HIV epidemic, true or false? And 81% of you said true, and the answer is false. The opioid crisis is actually killing people at a faster rate. In 1995, when HIV was at its highest rate, more than 43,000 people died. But just in 2016, the opioid crisis claimed the lives of 49,900 people, just in 2016. We're waiting for the data to come out in 2017. It's going to be more than that. It's going to double that almost. Next question. Question 6. Says here, which 3 regions of the United States experience the highest rates of opioid-related overdoses? And it looks like our answers was pretty even, but the most came from the Midwest, and then also we had some from we had the Midwest, Appalachia, and New England was the most answers. And those of you who answered that was correct. The Midwest, the Appalachian community, part of the country, and New England. While there's a lot of geographic variations in the rate of drugs, the highest overdose rates are really clustered in those 3 areas. So we're in that area. Okay? Next question. We're almost done. True or false? Men are more likely to die from overdosing, but more women are prescribed those opioids we were talking about to treat and manage chronic pain. You all said true, and that is correct. Men have nearly double the risk of overdosing on those opioids that we talked about. But women are more likely to develop an addiction on similar amounts. Overdosing and addiction is 2 different things, right?
Right.
Okay, so we know that that rate is very high. Next question, number 8. What does declaring the opioid crisis a public health emergency mean from the Secretary of Health and Human Services? You all answered that should be D, all of the above. You are correct. Because all of the above, under the parameters of a declared public health, the Secretary of Health and Human Services is given free rein to take the existing money in his or her budget and to spend it to deal with that public health emergency. Okay? To really help alleviate that crisis. And we know President Trump signed into an emergency as a public health emergency. That means that the Surgeon General and the Secretary of Health and Human Services are now moving to really impact that issue in many ways. And that is, we just know that it was just signed, but the Congress just signed a budget about end of last month. $6 billion over the next 2 years will be going towards opioid prevention, education, treatment, and recovery. $6 billion. That's a lot of money going in that area. $3 billion per year. Okay? So you all were correct on that. Good answer. And I know that most of our panelists will talk more detail, but I wanted just to go over this with you. Question 9. True or false, the most effective treatment for opioid addiction is a combination of counseling and inpatient clinics. You all said true, and that answer is false. Surprisingly, as it may sound, the most effective form of treatment for opioid addiction or addicts involves other opioids. That is, numerous studies have found that medication-assisted treatment, MAT, using methadone or buprenorphine have longer-lasting results for participants who go through that process. But weaning them off with another addiction, with another opioid, has a longer effect on them not being addicted again. And then question 10. How many Americans are treated daily in emergency departments for misusing the prescribed opioids? Okay, the synthetic, the natural and the semi-natural. That's what we're talking about here. And you all answered. Like C, 500 to 1,000 individuals. The answer is D, 1,000 or more daily. 1,000 or more daily. Okay. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, over 1,000 people are treated daily in emergency departments for not using prescription opioids as they were directed. The most commonly overdosed opioids are methadone, oxycodone, and hydrocodone. Those names sound familiar? Okay, so now you have a little bit about what the impact has on it and what it's doing to our communities. Okay? Now I'll turn it back over to Bill.
Great. Tracy, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So a couple of housekeeping while you guys are going through that. If people want to have this survey, they should reach out to us and we can maybe get them. So if you didn't get a chance to take the survey, you're like, oh my God, let me take this back to my organization and group, let them do this. Please reach out to me. I'll be here through the whole thing. We'll make sure you get a copy online of. You can do exactly the same way we just did that. If you just came in and did not get a folder, see me afterwards and make sure you get a folder. And then the folder has about Grand Boulevard Coalition. It has a bios of all our wonderful panel here, to where you guys can go through that, okay? Okay, so we kind of know who these wonderful people up here, and they're all bringing insight from national, statewide, wide, and all the way down to the community. And we also have some wonderful guests. Anybody in the audience work in this field that might want to raise their hand and kind of say who you are? And the purpose is, this is a conversation. So if you can bring something into this conversation, or be on this panel next time when we do.
That's right.
When we meet again, I'll
Come on down.
Okay? I saw some hands, I think right here, let me start up here.
Hello, my name is Patricia Johnson. I'm with the Chicago Department of Public Health. I work in the Office of Violence Prevention and Behavioral Health, and I'm assigned to substance use programs. So we coordinate a number of trainings where those who can prescribe can earn a waiver to prescribe buprenorphine or Suboxone. We also have a medication-assisted treatment learning collaborative where a number of safety nets come together several times out of the year so that they can learn about evidence-based practices as well as new models and various levels of care.
Awesome.
Great. And I think Lori's reached out.
Yeah, it was Lori did. Actually, one of my colleagues sits on the PAC coalition, and my director by the name of, I'm sorry, my medical director, her name is Dr. Elizabeth Salisbury Ashfar, able to be here, and I definitely raised my hand. I said I enjoy being in community, among community, and talking about these very important issues.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes, my name is Doris Reynolds. I'm the CEO of Specialized Assistance Services, SASSY, which is located at 2630 South Wabash.
Okay.
We have an outpatient program, and we use MAT in our treatment process, as well as we have a residential program down in Mantina, Illinois, which is a we use MAT and we don't use MAT. Put it simple. And we have been in business for 40 years. We were originally located at 2101 South Indiana, but we were incorporated on Drexel. It is no longer Drexel Avenue, nor. We were located where the DePaul Stadium is now located. So we've been around for a long time. A lot of experience.
You're going to bring a lot of
part of the community.
Awesome.
You're going to bring a lot into this conversation today, so welcome. I think I saw. Oh. Go ahead,
I guess I'm a student actually. My name is Josh Andre, and then I'm also I'm part of the board for a high school called Serenity Academy, Chicago. It's a recovery high school that we're trying to open in September.
Well, we're gonna give you a lot of help, and you're gonna be like when we go back into the bigger discussion. So hold on, ma'am, in the back there.
Hi, Dora Dansler Wright, and I'm the CEO and founder of Chicago Recovery Community Coalition. I've worked in the field for 20+ years. I'm the current director of the Women's Treatment Center Recovery Homes, and CRCC was just awarded a 5-year certification with the Department of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse to be the first responders in administering Narcan.
All right.
Great.
Congratulations.
Right here with the military jacket on. I know you're from somewhere. You're taking good notes.
I am, and that's pretty much. I was recruited here, drafted, I guess. I'm part of a Work of Faith Ministries Incorporated here on behalf of Reverend Wentworth. basically taking notes, because I'm kind of an active, I'm not kind of, I'm an activist. And I'm looking to get this eradicated. I'm astounded by the things that I've heard. It's just ridiculous that this is still even in existence. But then again, I do know why it's in existence. Aha. Aha.
All right.
That's all I say right now.
And he's another one of your person that brought you here is on the same board, and I'm on the same pack.
Oh, really?
With Lori's.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how we got a relationship here. Was there any other hands? Did anybody else want to say a few words or say how they disinfect them or anything? No? Well, feel free to join in. So, the panel already introduced themselves, so I'm not going to go through their bios and waste time and do all that. They're all great people, and you guys are all great people. And this here is supposed to be, like I said when I started, a conversation starter. But we're going to continue this 60 days later because the panel here travels around the country, maybe the world, and talking about this and getting best practices from other places. And that's an overused word, but I'm going to use it today a lot. They're going to bring some best practices from other areas that I think Bill was saying one earlier, and Tracy, that we might not know about and that we can use and bring back here. But I want you guys to say what you're looking for or needs that you guys are on the front line to make sure that gets out there. So these guys can put it in their head and our other esteemed future panelists can get those answers, and then we can come back with some answers to those things, okay? And one thing that I want to bring my friend back into the conversation with the school you're going to open, and you're dealing with teen, am I getting right, teen addiction already?
Yeah.
So, because Grand Boulevard Coalition, which I wrote our barter and what we said most kids don't use, the ones unfortunately that do use are the ones you deal with. So why don't you kind of give us a lay of the, now where is your school looking? Is it going to be in this community? Is it somewhere?
Well, so our school hasn't had any students yet. We have like a waiting list, and it's at 25 East Washington.
Okay.
But we're centrally located, but we plan to take students from the surrounding communities in Chicago.
Okay. And now, do you have students waiting to get in? You know of these students that will be utilizing your services already?
We have a few on a waiting list, and we have connections already for referrals. It's just that we're a private school. We're not taking the government has no money for us anyways, but we're not taking any. So we're working on fundraising so we can open the school and provide scholarships for students that couldn't afford our school.
Okay.
So,
well, make sure we all know about that, and we have to send an email out to this group about that. That if you have a fundraiser, something that we can be a part of that and get that information out to this network.
Thank you.
Of people. And make sure you guys are talking loud enough because we live streaming, right?
Okay.
So obviously people are not going to see your faces and hear your questions, but we want them to hear your questions, and hopefully some more feedback is coming from a broader audience. Okay. All right. Great. Any questions or anything? We move on. Everybody ready? So. The whole concept of this was what's going on a national level, what's going on in the state level, what's going on local, which we have our local people. So to the panel, who would like to take what's going on the national level?
I think we could all handle that.
Okay. Well, let's start with that, and then again, just say your name and where you're from, and not like the whole big thing, but you know what you think.
Not a problem. Sure. Again, I'm Max Knighton. And here in representing Facing Addiction, which is a national organization. It was formed in October of 2015. That's when they launched with a huge concert on in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall that drew tens of thousands of people there. Facing Addiction was also the exclusive partner in the release of Facing Addiction in America, the Surgeon General's report that came out a couple of years ago regarding that really began to shed light nationally on this crisis. At this point, we have through a national pilot project that I think over 50 different cities had applied for. They selected 15. And our applications, my application and Dora's application were accepted for Chicago. And as a result, we've been able to train individuals in advocacy to give the people who are affected by this horrible crisis a voice. Prior to this, there really wasn't a loud voice, or the voice was there, but it just wasn't being heard. Today, now that the crisis has extended itself to all communities, you know, and just about every household in America is affected some way or another, you know, then now it is beginning to have a voice. The people who are affected, either addicted to opiates, or those loved ones, or those employers, or those communities, those policing communities, they now are being heard. The country now realizes that this is a lot more serious. You heard the statistics earlier, and you answered a lot of those questions. The kind of joining factor in all of those questions that I noticed is that pretty much in the answers that everybody got wrong, you know, it was because we lowballed them. We lowballed those figures. We lowballed the damage that's being done by this disease. Okay, and you know, that just goes to show just how massive it really is. So those are the efforts that are being made by Facing Addiction on the national level. Here in Chicago, we are in the process at Another Chance Chicago of opening up a treatment center to provide services, outpatient services for adolescents. Believe it or not, I think I heard somebody say, check what's in your medicine cabinets earlier today. Make sure you do, because your kids already know, okay? They know what's in there, okay? And, you know, not only do you want to check, but you want to count, okay? If the doctor gave you 30 and you knew you only took 2 and there's only 10 left in the bottle, you know, those are indicators that things are going on that you may not normally be aware of. And we are in the process of, like I said, we'll be pending licensure as soon as we are able to acquire a medical director to provide services, treatment services for those adolescents that are suffering health problems here in the city and around the country. Through our connection with Facing Addiction, we're in the process of not only opening up here, but we are looking into opening up in the other 14 communities that the National Pilot Project is serving. In addition to that, it's kind of ironic. I'm really proud to be here today in the Bronzeville community, because this is where I was born and where I grew up at. And I know it's written that a prophet is not recognized in his own home. And to be, you know, to have been invited to this particular forum, you know, and to share this platform, you know, with these wonderful experts that surround me is totally honorable and humbling. And to be able to provide these services right here in my own home community as well, you know, is really an honor, and I thank you for that privilege.
Thanks, thank you. Bill, Tracy, you guys want to take the state?
Yeah.
From a state perspective?
I'll do more of a national. I'm still.
Okay, well, Bill, hold on. I know you're ready to go.
I'm always ready.
You're ready to go. Tracy, go ahead, parlay on the national.
I speak from what, you know, what the federal government is looking at and how they're working at. I spent my 13 years at Samson, which is your taxpayers' money being spent for substance abuse mental health services. If you don't have that site, you need to go to that site. It's SAMHSA, SAMHSA.gov, SAMHSA.gov. I tell you that because that's your own tax money. And so they're the ones that get the funding, that steer the resources to states and communities around this whole piece around opioids, substance abuse, marijuana prevention. They're the ones that are leadership. So I tell you that because you need to become knowledgeable and share that. I spent my years doing that as director for training. I was a director for training and technical assistance. And so I say to you all is that use that resource, okay? Because there are plenty of resources coming down to communities. I still have colleagues that I work with and communicate with at SAMHSA on a weekly basis. And I know the opioid crisis and the new Assistant Secretary of Health, Elaine Kantz, Dr. Elaine Kantz. She is the new person. When President Obama in December 2016 signed the Cures Act, C-U-R-E-S, the Cures Act. That was the last act that put billions of dollars in substance abuse to states. Many of your states, like here in Illinois, have some of those resources, and those dollars are expiring April 30th. But there's some new set of dollars coming out because the present administration doesn't want to have anything to do with the former administration did, so it's going to have a different name, but the same focus, okay? Different name, prevention, treatment, recovery. Prevention, treatment, recovery. So those dollars are coming, some straight to the state, some directly to you as nonprofit organizations who are doing the work. So there's two venues that you should work in and really focus in those areas. But there's a lot of resources, and SAMHSA.gov is one of the places you get a lot of that information from. And should you need any additional questions on that, please let me know. And the big piece around opioids is they're coupling it, they're adding it with mental health promotion. Mental health promotion. That's another term you should know, and when you go to the SAMHSA.gov website, you should read mental health promotion. That is, the focus is reducing anger, anxiety, and depression. Reducing anger, anxiety, and depression. So that whole mental health promotion, along with prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery, is a part of the full continuum that your tax dollars is paying for. Okay? And so you want to be able to understand that dynamic, how those dollars come to your state for DASA and DHS, and then to straight to your communities for other things. You know, the drug-free community money that does this project came straight from SAMHSA through the President's Office of National Drug Control Policy, but SAMHSA was the one that was in charge of handling those funds. SAMHSA also gave some money to the city for what they call a recast program to do violence and substance abuse prevention around mental health issues. Because it's called recast, R-E-C-A-S-T-E. Came to the city. There's 10 other cities in the country, and Chicago is one of those. $1 million a year, roughly, I believe, for 5 years. $1 million a year for 5 years to really focus in on that piece. But you need to know where your resources, that your tax dollars is coming from, that you should be a part of. And lastly, I'm going to say what the federal government wants to see is this, is that if you all are not collaborating together, I'm saying collaborating, not beating each other up. If you all are not collaborating together, then they're looking for communities that do that well. Get out of the schisms and isms and help our people. As my pastor would say, I'll let that settle for a minute. Isms and isms, and help our people in a collaborative way. Okay? That's all I have.
Tracy, that was great. And just for people to know, I know we're taking great notes. This is being live streamed, which means it's recording, which means we can look at this at another time. Is that correct? Okay, cool. So just let everybody know that you can pick up where we left off. Tracy gave so much stuff that I can't even explain about that. Bill, what you got to say?
I would echo what Tracy said. SAMHSA is an amazing resource. One of the things that we do in Lake County and in most of the suburbs is we shamelessly plagiarize from other communities and see what's going on. And I'll give you a couple examples of what we do in Lake County in particular. And I've heard some of those things actually happening here as well. We were the first county in the United States to have every single police officer carry naloxone or Narcan. And that we started that on, we actually had our first save on Christmas Day of 2015. And since then, which is 2.5 years, a little bit less than 2.5 years, we've saved over 350 lives.
Everybody in the room know what he's talking about? Okay, so I don't want to assume.
We do know what naloxone is and all that, yeah. So we have police officers now carry some version of naloxone. Every single police officer in Lake County does. We're the first county to do that. Numerous counties around the country have adopted that. We actually saw that from a police department in, I think it was in Ohio, where we picked up on it, and some of our more progressive police chiefs decided to start doing that, and we were able to coordinate that and get it implemented through our coalition. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that a coalition can do. You know, as I said earlier, we have a statewide coalition. I look around the room and I see a few members who regularly attend, including Walter back there. And we have, you know, we talk about things, we share opinions, and we share ideas of things we're doing. The other program that we do, and that has, again, we shamelessly stole it or borrowed it. We did change the name. Is we call it the Way Out program, which is a pre-arrest drug diversion program where anyone who has an addiction of any kind, that includes alcohol, whatever, can come into a police station and say, I need help. And they can bring their paraphernalia, their drugs in. They will not be prosecuted. If they have warrants, they will not be, depending on the level of the warrant, the warrants will be set aside until they're clean. And we find them a bed that day. And law enforcement direct bed, wherever it is. And we've had officers drive from Lake County down to the south side of Chicago to put someone into a bed at one of the Gateway facilities in, I think it was in Naperville. Since we did that, I think we're 20 months into that program, we've had 336 people go through the program. And these are people who volunteer and who want to come in and get help. And we find a spot for them that day. It's very easy, and it's been, this was originally pioneered in Gloucester, Massachusetts by a police chief in Gloucester who decided he had had enough with all the petty crime that revolves around addiction. And what he found when he developed this program, he called it the Angel Program. The Angel Program had people who would come in and sit with the person, and we do that as well, who generally are in long-term recovery. And we have, I think I have a list of about 120 people who are willing to come and sit at any time of year, 365 days, 24/7, to volunteer to sit with someone who is waiting for a bed to be placed, because sometimes it's difficult to find a bed. And it takes sometimes up to 12 hours. But this program was basically borrowed, I'll use a better word this time, it was borrowed from Gloucester, Massachusetts, and we became one of the first counties in the United States to do this. And it's such a sea change. I'm a former elected official. In my past career, I was a mayor of a small town of 18,000 people. And I supervised old school law enforcement, and I cannot visualize law enforcement actually acting as a social worker as opposed to arresting someone. Because if you walked into, 15 years ago, you walked into a police department with drugs and paraphernalia, you'd be face down with handcuffs on. In this case, you're in a soft interview room, and the police officer is talking to you and trying to get you help. I mean, it's a sea change, and to see this in Lake County is eye-opening. We've had 30 some odd people go through there. We collect a lot of data around the program, and we are very proud of that program. It's driven by our law enforcement, believe it or not. And last but not least, I would say the other thing that we do is we have and we had a drug, one of those terror drugs up here a few seconds ago. Is this, and I heard a couple people mention this, is drug disposal. One of the ways, and to a little bit more data, is the vast majority, and I mean vast majority of deaths from heroin and or fentanyl are young adults and older. They're not 18 and under. The vast majority of deaths of people who are 18 and under are from opioids, prescription drugs. The way you get to heroin is through prescription drugs. So you don't start off, the average 14-year-old doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to do heroin for the first time, first drug in my life. He started somewhere else. He started with alcohol, he started with marijuana, he started with pills. There's a lot of data, and SAMHSA, by the way, has tons of that data. That shows this stuff. So you have young adults abusing prescription drugs, and that is the reason these programs, this bag is a drug deactivation system. In Lake County, we have every police department has a drug disposal box. We advertise heavily about it. Last year we collected 17,000 pounds, which is about, believe it or not, is about 40% of the state's total, because a lot of places don't do this. I know Chicago does a good job with their police departments all have disposal boxes. Chicago does a good job, Lake County does a good job, the rest of the state does a terrible job. And to that end, 700,000 people produce 40% of the state's total prescription drugs, and Chicago produces the next 60%, and everyone else is behind. And this is where youth get their prescription drugs. So when you have a 16-year-old who maybe tears up their knee or has wisdom teeth taken out, and they're giving them some Oxy or some Vicodin, and they like it, they develop a taste for it, or they're not supervised by their parents, and they potentially develop a craving for it. And then their prescription runs out, and they start looking in grandma's medicine cabinet or the neighbor's medicine cabinet. They open the medicine cabinet. Can I use your restroom? Sure, go right in. Open the medicine cabinet. Look, there are 20 Vicodins in there from your bad back. And because I can tell you, I have no idea what's in my medicine cabinet. That's because I'm married, but I still have no idea what's in my medicine cabinet. And you know, there aren't because I checked, but there could be anything in there. And would I remember that I had 20 Oxy in my medicine cabinet? No, I wouldn't. So that's one of the ways that youth get a hold of prescription drugs. Eventually what happens is, and this is one of the paths, I'm not saying it's the only path, but this is one of the paths towards heroin addiction. Over time, you develop a craving or an addiction towards prescription drugs, and you run out of places to find them. So you go on the street, in our area, it's in Waukegan or in North Chicago, and you decide you want to buy some prescription drugs from a dealer. Well, guess what? A prescription drug, one tablet of an Oxy in Lake County costs $25. Wow. But you can buy a hit of heroin for about $5. Yeah. So it becomes the economics. And once you go back, once you go to heroin, you don't really go back. I mean, because heroin's a much more addictive substance. It's chemically similar, as we saw up here earlier, but that's one of the reasons that this drug disposal boxes, and this is one thing that we've seen in Lake County. In 2012, when we kicked this program off, we had 41 deaths in Lake County that were directly attributed to prescription drug overdoses. Each year, as we built this program up, we've had a reduction in deaths from prescription drugs. Last year, it was 11. And like Tracy, I'll let that sit in for a second. 41 to 11 in 5 years. Now, I'm not taking complete credit, although I'm sitting up here doing that. But the reality of it is we saw a reduction in that. The sad thing is people, migrate, young adults migrate into other stronger drugs. And that program, we use that, and people plagiarize from us and steal our ideas, because I must spend probably one phone call a week talking to other areas who are looking to implement the drug disposal box program and how to do it. And that's the value of coalitions. It's the value of the Grand Avenue Coalition and the things that you guys do together and working with other coalitions. It's enormously valuable. So that the opioid initiative in Lake County, we do a lot of work. We have a coalition of about 150 people who show up from all the sectors, and we always hear about things. And by things, I mean, we had, as an example, we had some people who do medication-assisted treatment come to us. I think they did Suboxone in particular, and they were telling us that Suboxone, and this is a very detailed thing here, so I'll kind of summarize it as best I can, that doctors could only have certain number of Suboxone patients at a given time. And I think that number was 30, and it was tied to methadone plans. Well, Suboxone is not methadone, and the requirement for doctors' supervision of methadone is not the same as Suboxone. The problem is doctors money around 75 patients for Suboxone. So what are doctors going to do when they can only have 30 patients? They're not going to do anything. So there was a lack of clinics, or the reason is it just wasn't profitable for doctors. So one of the things we worked with, and this is more on the federal level, we worked with the DEA to raise that limit. And part of the CARA legislation last year eased that limit and allows doctors to see about 100 patients, and then it changes a little bit depending on the experience level and the training of the doctor. But so now it's become more profitable, or it's become profitable for doctors to actually do Suboxone, which is a huge deal because medication-assisted treatment, as we saw on this slide back here, is a solution. The only way you find that out is if you're at a coalition meeting and a doctor tells you this and you're like, huh. And that's how we were able to sort of effectuate this sort of minor thing, but in reality it's a huge thing, because one of the things that you've seen the last year is an increase in the amount of Suboxone clinics. And so that's the sort of things that coalitions can do, and that's the sort of thing that talking about it is. It's one of the reasons that I've come all the way down from Lake County to here today, because I believe in sharing what we're doing, because you learn stuff, and I would be shocked if I didn't walk out of here having at least 3 things that I've learned today. And that's really the value of this, and I applaud you for A, doing this, and B, talking about doing a follow-up in 60 days. The only thing I would add to that is get your local politicians involved. Because we don't let ours down. We're in their face nonstop about doing things, and we've had good success in sort of engaging them on the mission. And advocacy is very, very important. I would say that sometimes advocacy is probably the most important thing I do. Sorry I didn't need to talk so long.
You're good. You got a lot of good information. Yeah.
Before we dive all the way down to the community level, any questions out here? Anybody put something in and want to get a repeat from somebody?
Don't ask me to repeat it. I will add one thing. Okay. And I just looked at my notes. We were talking about how many deaths there are, and I say these numbers, and everyone just looks at me like, it's difficult to grasp 49,000. And I heard this from and again I ripped this off. It's the equivalent of a commuter jet crashing every single day, and everyone dying. It happened in this country. Can you imagine the hue and cry that would be going on with air traffic control and air safety? And we'd be solving that problem quickly. The reality is this has been going on for years. I mean, and the number is like 140 people die every single day. That's a lot. It is a lot to think. It is a lot.
I'd like to add a little bit to what Bill was saying in terms of the statistics that you guys gave out. The statistics we gave were from 2016. I heard just yesterday on the news that it was 63,600 overdose deaths since 2016. So I also want to say that community level, but
I'm ready, so why don't you say that and go right into the community level.
I'm Vivian Hill, and I'm going to talk about the community piece. I have a substance abuse treatment program. It's actually in Will County of the South Chicagoland area, and we're a program in the city of Chicago for women with children. So I thought it was interesting to come today. I volunteer, and it's very exciting. They've been off the ground, I think, 6 years, and so I'm glad to be, I'm honored, actually, to be a part of that. In the community in which we live, the 63,600 that they have announced yesterday, I was reminded that anytime there's 6 million substance users, this government is to announce it as a state of emergency. But now we have 9 to 10 years, and we're just now getting to the tip of trying to help and service these people. So we're kind of out of time. Methadone used to be the only thing used to help an addictive person. Now we have LAM, which is longer. Methadone you have to take pretty much every day. LAM, you take 3, maybe twice a week. And the Suboxone, which has to be taken by the doctor in the office. So there are some progress in the addiction. And our the statistics are true. Most of the addicted people that we see are the Caucasian. So when you get time, you can take a look at it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna make sure that next time we got somebody first. My friend here who has been placed in the community, you can't get, you want to take that topic of where, what do you see in your location now?
One of the things that I want to bring up, seniors. We have a lot of seniors that I think. And there are few resources for them. And many of them have been addicted for a number of years. And we're doing the best we can, but they need far more many resources than we can provide or that we are aware of that's out there for them. And that's something that I'm concerned with. We treat adults here in the ball.
Okay.
But I would say probably 3/4 of our patients are 60 and above.
When you say resources, what do you think they need?
Resources,
Treatment or what?
well, it's not so much treatment. We're providing treatment, yes. But many of them, as you said, are renters. Many of them have limited income, and I mean very limited income, practically none. And many of them, we have concluded using drugs to deal with their everyday situation, the stressful situation they face. And that we cannot do very much about. We can't help them a lot in that respect. Because as you know, the payment system in the state of Illinois is changing tremendously. You're entering a new era here, and you have to learn what it's going to be like and that kind of thing. So we are limited in the resources that we can provide. And sometimes just having a place for them to go. Because when they come to the treatment center, they meet their friends and so forth. And once they complete treatment, instead of having some place to go where there are constructive activities, they will hang around the parking lot, which means we have to have security to keep them moving on. And if they had some place to go where they could engage in constructive activities, this will also be a positive factor in their life.
Very interesting. Panel. Any feedback on that?
Yeah, good observation about that. DASA, which is the Department of Alcohol and
Substance Abuse.
Thank you. The fastest growing segment of people who die from opioids and or heroin are those above the age of 50. It's a smaller segment, but it's the fastest growing. And those are people, you know, heroin, the mean age of death for a heroin addict is age 30. So these are not people who are extremely lucky and have lasted till 53. These are people who picked up the habit late in life. And you've identified that, and it's sad to say those numbers indicate that it's not going to get better anytime soon.
I agree, and what's most difficult is trying to get the senior out of their environment. You know, it's hard to move them. Yeah, it's hard to move them to a safe environment or a place where they can be safe. They're not they're not eager to move on or to move at all. So that is a challenge. We have to rethink that.
Mike, Tracy?
There's some national programs under HHS that work with senior populations directly. I think one is the National Office of I'm trying to think it out loud. Elder seniors. But it's under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And I would recommend you take a look at that U.S. Department of Health and Human Services website. Then on their site, type in the word senior prevention services, senior substance abuse prevention services. That's on there. That's available. But also when you go to SAMHSA.gov, there's also some really key pieces about that can be of help to that population as well. Secondly, I would use the collaboration of the coalition, Grand Boulevard Coalition, and really begin to connect with them, and maybe they can reach out to other senior services and say, this is a problem. We want to bring this problem to you all to collaborate on ways that we can partner with those, because a lot of those existing senior services can link right into those existing dollars and provide that supportive services to the folks that you're serving.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for bringing that up, and when we do reconvene, that's going to be one of the areas that I'll put some resources into bringing those people to the conversation. Okay, questions for the panels, but there was a problem, now we kind of know the solution. I heard something about an RFP. Is that RFP still open? Because I heard people had kind of RFP. He was writing one up already. No, it's closed. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to give people some money. Yes.
One of the fastest growing communities that are coming up that SAMHSA is focused on is recovery community organizations, which is why Another Chance and Chicago Recovery Communities Coalitions were chosen on a national level.
Good.
Because recovery community organizations are organizations that have and host a number of drug-free services for seniors, for youth. Max is going to talk a little bit about the collaboration. I won't go into it, but I want to mention that Chicago Recovery Communities Coalition is the first and the longest standing recovery community organization in Illinois. So.
Well, we definitely got you guys next. Before we go and talk about that, I'm going to bring it back to questions or anything about the youth that you need. Like you heard what my friend here talked about the seniors, since you're beginning to deal with the other end of that spectrum. Is there some needs or something that's missing? You're like, oh, we can use, we need, whatever.
Yeah, a few things actually. So that's kind of why the whole idea of a recovery high school came into play, because a lot of youth and adolescents that were in high school would go to treatment, and then they come back from their inpatient and go right back to their regular high school, or they go to a recovery home and then go back to high school, and 100% of a study that was found that 100% of these kids got off the drugs the first day back. Every kid. So they realized there's like a lack on the continuum, so they wanted to put high schools in. And a bunch, there's like almost 40, I think, around the country, but there's none in Illinois and none in Chicago. And the majority of them are in like Texas or Minnesota. Yeah. That's how we started that. And then also just similar to the elders, young adults, I'm part of this grant through SAMHSA with DASA, and they're taking they took in young adults and to just ask them what do they see they need in support for their recovery, and almost all of them were talking about how there's other resources they need, similar to this is like places they hang out and stuff like that. So we are lacking that, and there is one program that's done really well. It's in Maine Township. Every Friday night they host a dinner at the water park, I think, Park Street facility, and they had 60 young adults in recovery a couple weeks ago. So things like that.
Do you all remember when I talked about that continuum? So prevention is important, but recovery is just as important. Okay, so the key is having that continuum. and using the recovery services that we know about, because that's just as important as prevention. So we need to have that. I just wanted to keep that in mind.
That's very important. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something real quick. My name is Pam W., and I am a member of Bill's family. I've been in recovery for 26 years. And I have a son who's 23 years old who, despite all seeing everything you could possibly want to grow up in a positive recovery home that preach this, that teach this, is found his way into active addiction. And one of the things that I noticed, because I go to a lot of 12-step meetings, is that when I first came into the program when I was 33 years old, most of my peers were my age. Well, the meetings that I go to now, they're 50 and above. And so when you have someone come out of recovery, you know, a young person, they're not relating to the 55 or the 60-year-old that's in the 12-step meeting. And my son, and I've been thinking about this for a whole year, and I'm a retired teacher. I said, what do I need to be doing? Because I got to save my son. I know there are programs where they have meetings for younger people, but it's just not enough information given about it, so that we can encourage these young people to get. See, when I came into recovery in 1992, 91, you know, there was the meeting after the meeting. But these young people, we're not meeting after the meeting with these young people. So I hear what you're saying. They need something to do. So, like you say, each community, if I can reach one, I can, you know, if it's just my job just to reach a few. So my home group, I'm proposing to them next weekend that we create at least one meeting for young people so they can relate to that. Because, you know, what do? They're not relating to me. My son doesn't hear me. You know, it's like you being a doctor and you can't doctor on yourself. I can't help my son. I'm too close.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't want him to be the white elephant, and you see.
It's okay.
It's all right, baby.
It's okay.
It's all right.
And you see your son going through, and sometimes you have to go through. If you're familiar with the recovery, don't sit down, you don't get to hit that bottle.
Yes, ma'am.
But I don't want him to be the white elephant and we're sitting around and everybody see it, and nobody says anything. And I think that's what you're saying. Everybody sees it, but we're not doing enough. So if one person, everybody just say, well, I'm gonna help 5 people, then we can be in that process. So, you know, Vivian is my friend and I've known her for many years. I'm really here to support her. But actually, this is helping to inspire me.
Let me say this, in your community where you're located, thank you very much. Let me say this, that although you want to say you by yourself, I would encourage you, if you don't have a drug-free coalition in your community, you have
I live in
one.
Oak Lawn.
So we need to see if there's one there. If there is one, then you need to collectively work with them to help you move this along so you can build. You're not just doing it alone.
Right.
Okay? Collectively, we can really impact this. Right. You know, we may be happy about the movie Black Panther, but he had a team.
Yes,
he had a team. So collectively, he had a team. So we need to not think we need to do this by ourselves, but we need to have a collective body, and a collaborative effort builds around all those continuums. So Oak Lawn, we need to, I don't know if there's one that's close to serve that, but we definitely need to make sure that there's one that's close to serve that.
If not, we can start one.
There's 2 I would love for you to join CRCC, but there's one that just got started. I want to say UMark. I think it's in the south suburb. I don't know what services they provide, but their coalition is a mix of ATR providers.
Okay.
Please wait for Max. I don't want to step too quick.
Max, before you.
And let's share this information.
Before you share what you're gonna share, and I want you to address that. This young lady's been waiting patiently.
Hi, my name is Kim Davis Ambrose, and I'm an intern with the Grand Boulevard Federation from Chicago State, working on my MSW. And I'm just glad that we're having this conversation. But one of my questions becomes, how are some of the agencies who provide substance abuse help getting the word out to the people on the street? How do they know who to connect with if you want help? A lot of people are doing it secretly and you don't know until it has blown up. But what are we doing to make services more accessible?
Good question. I don't know.
Anybody want to take that?
I want to say my husband's gonna hit me in a minute, but I do too much. I don't feel that I do too much, but I am involved a lot. And there is a number of different things that we're trying to do, and there's a number of different partners in the room that have services, and I think we'll speak to some of that. We recently talked about the coalition forming a Take It to the Streets. There's not a lot of mapping in Chicago. Myself was on a committee with DASA, which was a Ross committee to develop a strategy for mapping to get that very same information out. Where are services accessible? What are people doing? Yes, we need more services, but there's a host of people already in the communities that are getting grant funded. Here's one to my right over here, Walter. And people need to know where those services are. I am in the same position you are with a host of nephews, with a whole generation of families that are addicted. And I'm collaborating with Max, I'm talking to Howard, I'm just talking to a lot of people because I know the help is there, but because I am a recovery worker and have been in the field for so long, it's like I have to get out there. I have to get out there. He tells me all the time, you're doing too much, you're doing too much. But if you save his life, it's not doing too much.
I would like to add to that.
Yes, sir.
To answer her question, what are we doing? We are doing a number of things. Social media. We are collaborating with different organizations. We are doing, people are knowing about us through word of mouth. But the most that I could say is being a part of meetings like this, where we could come together and be a part of your organization. We can get some more exposure, and we can.
They're denied other things, other rights. So then they really only have the only thing to turn to is back to drugs. So we want to see how we can decriminalize this, like, and make it, people trying to make it a mental illness versus a criminal crime. Also the criminalization of, say, parents who cannot, if I want to discipline, see, like you said, in the face, spare the rods for the child, and now I discipline my child, people discipline their children, they can go to jail for disciplining their child, like, you know, the teachers,
you know, to kind of give a closing statement on what they want to get out to the group here and online. I want people to get over there and grab some of this wonderful food and kind of fellowship together so we can kind of get out here. But I want everybody to have a chance to talk. Then after that, I'll come and close. Okay? Did you have something? Oh, no. I got the next one.
I was just nodding in agreement.
Okay. You got to go. Okay. Max, talk to us.
Thank you.
We've been waiting for it. Here we go.
First, let me address the last question that was on the floor regarding what's being done to put the word out as far as notifying people of the resources that are available. Through my Facing Addiction contact, we've launched, in partnership with Transforming Youth Recovery, we've launched the Addiction Resource Hub. And that is aimed at pooling all the necessary tools needed for individuals and their families to find help, okay? Whether it be, you know, referring a family member or a friend, you know, into treatment, to finding help for the family as well, okay? This disease, it drains every single resource that a person has. You know, it drains every resource that the household has available to them. And this hub kind of brings together a lot of the community organizations that can maybe help provide food because dad spent the paycheck, you know, on drugs and could not make it to the grocery store. Maybe pay a light bill to prevent, you know, the lights from being disconnected in the middle of wintertime because the son stole the money, you know, out of mom's purse. Okay, little things like that are things that we, you know, so easily overlook, you know, but these are the real consequences of addiction. You know, not just the criminal side, you know, where you know, we have these mass incarcerations as a result of the previous at the war on drugs. Okay, but the social, the economic, the real personal economic consequences that we have a tendency to face. So I want to refer you to facingaddiction.org, and you'll be able to you'll see that the Addiction Resource Hub on there. Okay, and that can kind of tie you into numerous resources, not just here but around the country, you know, for those who are in need of various services to help to deal with this problem. Day to day, I'm asked, you know, in my regular employment position, to interview kids, interview offenders, adolescent offenders, to see if they have substance abuse problems. Not only do I find that they do, but they have a lot of other problems as well. ADHD, depression, bipolar disorder, unresolved grief from a loved one. We're spending millions of dollars right now to help the people in Florida after that devastating attack, okay? But what about the kid whose grandma passes in the hood, okay? Who was his best friend, his only confidant, you know, the only one that understood him. There's the resources for them are very, very limited. So I find that these kids have those issues too. You kids tell me a lot about what's going on in their households. A lot of the things that we as adults are ashamed or too guilty to admit. But it all shows up in the faces and in the actions of your children when they come to me. I send these kids, I diagnose them, and I send these kids to treatment. Sometimes outpatient treatment, sometimes residential treatment. When it comes to outpatient treatment, a lot of the time they don't go. They just don't go. If a parent or a guardian who has had control or authority over this child for 15, 16 years, 17 years, is unable to make them do the things that they need to do, what makes you think that a judge in a robe with a hammer, you know, pounding a gavel, you know, is gonna have that, who they've never seen before, is gonna have an even greater influence on them? They don't go. When I send them to residential treatment, as Josh mentioned earlier, they get there, they spend 30 to 90 days there, occasionally more, but with managed care now taking over Medicaid, those days are very limited. And then they come back, but they come back to the same environment, whether it be at school or at home. Okay, and you know, hence we got the problem all over again. What Another Chance Chicago, the program that we have put together, is bringing, is something a little different than what's been offered before. It's not so much unique in itself in the individual parts, but it is unique in the fact that we bring so many different individual approaches together under one umbrella. We're proposing that one of the things that is so exciting about being here today is that I'm at the Illinois Institute of Technology. One of the things that has been missing in our field of substance abuse treatment is technology. We propose to bring modern technology into the field of substance abuse treatment. Right as it stands right now, and all the treatment professionals in this room, I'm sure, will agree with me, the majority of our diagnosis for this illness is based on self-report. Okay, we conduct an assessment and we ask the kids or the adults, questions regarding their particular habits. Unfortunately, and I have much research to prove it, most people, when it comes to issues of drug use, sex, and crime, are not very honest when it's time to be assessed for those problems. Technology has afforded us the opportunity to whereas we can now do brain scans and we can see right into the head, right into the brain, and identify the areas. We can identify whether a person has an addiction issue. We can identify how bad it is. We can identify the other areas and make other diagnoses simply from the use of this type of technology. And it has been available for many years. The problem is that it has not been available in our communities. Another Chance Chicago proposes to bring that type of technology to Bronzeville, to Austin, to Inglewood, where the communities where this disease is taking us out and has been since the 60s. Another thing about self-report is that youth, or about treatment, is the group sessions. Okay, group therapy is a huge part of substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment. Problem is that when you put people in a group, a lot of the time they don't want to talk about what's going on. They don't want to open up and be honest because of the people who they're in the group with. Another piece of technology that was developed in St. Louis by a good friend of mine, and he is offered to Another Chance Chicago, is an advanced avatar system. This system will allow us to conduct groups from wherever the individual is. They don't have to be in the room. They can be at home, they can be at school, they can be in the playground. And only the group facilitator knows who everybody is. They can show up on the screen as a pig if they want to, okay? Or as whatever type of person they choose to be, whatever image they choose to project, that's who will be there. The technology also allows them to be in any type of setting. They can be sitting in a circle in the mountains, okay? They can be sitting under a porch with the rainfall, with the quiet rainfall. Okay. This is the type of technology that is now that we propose to bring to this field and to our particular communities. Finally, we always talk about the economic part and the fact that kids, and not just kids, but they need to be reintroduced into society as far as jobs, and job training and so forth. Well, we have partnered with apps like Shoveler, landscaping companies who have apps, and car wash companies, okay, who do on-the-spot car wash. All you gotta do is go on your app, okay, and you can get your car washed. Somebody will come to you and wash your car. Somebody will come to you and shovel your snow. Somebody will come to you and cut your grass. These are partnerships that we have formed for kids that have agreed to hire our kids to give them work, to give them a future and to give them a hope. We are in the process, Josh, of partnering to provide our substance abuse this same technology to bring this treatment to not only the Recovery High School in Chicago, but several others around the country. We're in talks now with one in Oregon to bring not only but also the recovery homes, okay, to these places. As Josh mentioned, it's enough to send them to treatment and come back. Give them a place to stay where they can get stabilized and used to.
Yes.
Let me finish by saying they cannot, it's nice to have them come to treatment, but it's even better when we can bring the treatment to them, where I can take a kid and I can teach him how to I can teach him coping skills in the environment where he's gonna need them the most. You know, this is a nice huddle here today. With 65,000 people, $100 a ticket to watch the Bears huddle. They don't mind if they huddle, as long as it's just for 40 seconds. But the question is, now that you have huddled, can you now score? Can you take what you discussed in your private conversation and apply it on the public playing field? Okay, and that's what this is about. That's what Another Chance Chicago is about. It's about teaching them these skills where they are and teaching them to use them in the circumstance. See, we're not asking kids to come to a facility. We're going to bring the facility to them. We will go to the homes. I have counselors, many of your employees out there, okay, are in touch with me, and they are in my phone because they are eager to not be limited to sitting up in this office. They want to go into the house. They want to go into the classroom. They want to go on the basketball court, you know, and talk to these kids, you know, and provide these services. I was looking so hard for a partner, and God blessed us with Dora Wright and her husband, John. And together, not only do we have the opportunity now, before we could even get a license in Chicago, we talked about this program and we put it out there. And now we have the opportunity to bring it to 15 other cities in Chicago.
Congratulations. You had me scared there because you said $100 ticket. I said, you guys $100. You see me, I'm just excited. I didn't get none of that 100, but unfortunately I'm excited. But we're short on time. I want to make sure before I give my closing remark, we got a lot of food and I'm moving people, and I just can't eat all the sandwiches myself. Right quick, Vivian, Bill, Tracy, you guys go to a closing statement?
Sure. I implore to you that this situation is so serious, we cannot walk out of this room and not think of the part that we're playing in helping our youth. Not just the youth, but the adults, the elderly, as we discussed earlier. The children at our homes, it's serious. I say to you, young man, the high school that you guys are developing, think of it as long term. You know, once they get what they need inpatient or in school, we have to do some type of continuing care, because as someone said earlier, the 28-day programs do not work. The detox alone does not work. We're stripping them, taking off all of their clothes, and then sending them back out in the environment in which they live. And they're eating them up like sheep. We can't do it. We can't let them go back out there in that same environment and expect them to survive. You know, we have to play our part and what we can do above and beyond. The young lady says she does too much. Her husband says she does too much. How can we do too much when 49,900 opiate deaths in 2016? How can we do too much? We can't do enough. We have to, if not do it ourselves, bring people aboard. Pam has been my friend for over almost 30 years. Bring people aboard that understand the mission, you know, that understand and willing to help other people. You know, this addiction is killing people. If we don't have people in our own home dying, we know somebody that has died through this disease. Again, most of the youth don't use. It's the elderly that has all this dope in the medicine cabinet, have all this dope right there at home, and the youth see them popping pills every time there's discomfort. They may want to do that, or they will stray far away from it. We want to catch those that stray far from it and help them prevent the addiction to opioids. Thank you guys for coming today and listening. It is truly an honor.
Bill? I think the one thing that resonates with me is the power of coalitions, the power of everyone here.
Yes.
I mean, there are 30 people here discussing an issue on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, morning and afternoon. That's amazingly valuable, and I know I said earlier that I pick up 2 or 3 things. I've actually picked up 5 or 6 things. My book is filled here. So those are ideas that I can take home. They're ideas that you can take home, and the value of coalition, the value of talking amongst each other. And thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you. You know, that the energy that we all have here, and ma'am, your story is very moving. You can tell the emotion behind it. And you know, it never. To hear that from someone who's touched by that, and I would say most of us in some way, form, shape, or form are touched by it, is very compelling and very powerful. Don't stop.
Yeah, don't give up.
Tracy?
Oh, okay.
Tracy?
Well, I just appreciate being here and the opportunity to facilitate the process. I always like to keep it simple, and I want you all to use that, what we learned about the opioids, use that. You know, take that back to your communities. You know, 3 things that we always do when we do training at the SAMHSA level about opioids is, number 1, don't share medications. Tell people don't share medications. You don't share them. Have folks that you know do not share medications. Do not share them with other folks. Secondly, secure your medications. Safely secure your medications. That's something you can do when you get home. Safely secure them. And then lastly, safely dispose of them, like Bill said. Dispose of these medications. And there's places you can do that and ways you can go to Walmart and get stuff now that can safely dispose of your medications. Those are simple things that we can do individually. But lastly, as Bill said, join Grand Boulevard Coalition. If you don't have a coalition near you, let us know. We'll find out what's near you. But at least stay in touch with Grand Boulevard Coalition as a way to do it collectively as a body. Don't collaborate.
Max, you got a closing statement?
The views I'm about to express are not those of Grand Boulevard Coalition. And you know, I think I heard the movie Black Panther mentioned a couple times today, and yeah, I love movies myself. I'm just a stone movie fanatic. And one of the things about movies is, you know, when you go to the show, you know, they have these things that are called previews of coming attractions. These are the hot clips of the upcoming shows. And the purpose of these clips are to make it so exciting, so interesting, so hot that you buy a ticket to make it to the upcoming show. Usually it's either the fight scene, the chase scene, or the love scene. And now the movie may not be nothing, But you never be able to tell from the clips, because the clips are hot.
Yes.
Grand Boulevard Coalition. There is a production coming to town. God is the producer.
Amen.
Jesus is the director.
Amen.
But in the meantime, we are the hot clips of the upcoming show. When you put together forums and coalitions like this is the hot clip. People want to buy a ticket to the upcoming show. So when you helping your family and those kids out there, you are a hot clip to the upcoming show. Dora, John, when you guys are doing your thing, Josh, for those kids and for those adults, you're the hot clip to the upcoming show. And our job is to make this clip so hot that everybody's gonna wanna come up and buy a ticket to this show. But when they come to buy a ticket, all we gotta do is tell them, you don't have to purchase a ticket. The price has already been paid. God bless you.
All right. So, in closing, I just want everybody to know one more time, Grand Boulevard Coalition, this is what we do. We put on these type of forums. We go into community, find out what they need. But our main thing is always to, as we say, our youth don't, most youth don't use, but we also are in school. We're student driven. So next time you'll see more students being involved. They're taking tests this week, so they're all around here today. I'm happy about the school. We're going to definitely support you and support everybody to be a part of the coalition. One thing I wanted everybody to know, if you pull out your calendar, hopefully you're free. On May 26th, the last Saturday in May, for some reason, I got something about Saturdays. We're going to come back together. And I'm hoping everybody in this room bring 2 people that can utilize what you've heard today and benefit from it. All my people who are on the front lines in this battle will bring support or bring what they have to talk about. It sounds like we have to set some tables up and let people have a chance to look at all the different things that people do. But I wanted to make sure the coalition, you guys are all part of the coalition, we're making sure that we bring back some information to help our friend who had to leave to go to a funeral about seniors. Maybe some information to help the school that's getting ready to get started. And Max, the name of your program?
Another Chance Chicago.
And then Another Chance Chicago will bring out everything that